everybody. Chris McCabe with another Amazon suspension trends from a lot of sellers I've been talking to lately who have received warnings that their account may be deactivated soon, possibly within 72 hours, possibly outside of that window for review manipulation or attempted review manipulation. So I had a few key concepts I wanted to go through. And then I have kind of a word of warning, a word of advice, which perhaps I'll lead with, which is do not base your appeal, whether you're already suspended or about to be suspended, do not base it entirely or solely on the advice you get from any seller support reps or account health reps who may have called you to tell you your account was at risk of deactivation, or if they didn't call you and you called them, they may have given you advice that you cannot blindly follow. You could get suspended because of the advice that you get from account health reps. And I've said this numerous times in maybe 4 or 5 previous suspension trend videos. But the bottom line is take everything they say, not just with a grain of salt, but also in situations like this, whether it's for review manipulation or any other type of suspension that could happen to you in the next 72 hours. Vet it for accuracy, for expertise. Make sure they're not reading from a script. And do not base your suspension appeal entirely on what they say as if they can see things you can't, or as if what they're giving you is accurate guidance and good suggestions prior to appealing. One reason this is such an emergency now is because we've talked to numerous sellers who, before we had spoken to them, got these warnings, maybe had a call with account health or called in themselves once they saw that the account was at risk of deactivation, and they followed up. They spoke to a rep who said, well, you're still actively selling. And again, this is for people who are given the 72-hour window in the account health assurance program. Most sellers that we talk to these days are already in account health assurance. Mostly what that means is you get 72 hours. Your account remains active. You can appeal within that 72 hours. It doesn't mean you have to appeal successfully within that 72 hours. That's what it used to mean. Nowadays, they seem to go back and forth with numerous sellers since most 1 or 2 appeals get rejected anyway, whether they're good or not. Most sellers go back and forth with these teams for upwards of 9-10 days. But the first appeal has to go in within 72 hours. And do not base that first appeal on whatever they tell you they think you should do. Take it as one source among many. Do your own fact finding, your own research. Talk to people like us. Talk to other Amazonians you're in touch with, whether you have an SAS core manager, an ads manager, other people you've come in contact with at Amazon Accelerate, let's say, their conference in Seattle, whoever it might be. Do not base your decisions solely on what 1 or 2 account health reps say, especially since many of them are saying your account is still active right now. If you acknowledge the violation, it should disappear from your dashboard and you won't get suspended because you're still actively selling. You're not suspended yet. I don't know why they're giving this advice, because a lot of the acknowledgments result in an immediate suspension, and then they are biased against those appeals from that moment forward. They might even start telling you, well, you've acknowledged it, and the only way to be clear of this or to get reinstated if you've been deactivated is to dispute it successfully. Dispute it to their satisfaction, not just say, we're disputing this, we think this is an error, have a nice day, let us know what you think. You need evidence, you need examples. We've done this with numerous people. We do not submit disputes unless we have evidence and examples. Otherwise, it's just words on a page, which is more or less meaningless to them. They reject almost all of those. And there are some account health reps that will level with you and say, you got to dispute it. If you acknowledge it, you could be suspended at any time, because that's true. If you do acknowledge it, make sure it's because you had no other way to dispute it and you had no way out other than an acknowledgement. At this point, with the way enforcement teams are operating, an acknowledgement of something like review abuse, review manipulation, any of the seller code of conduct, to be honest with you, attacking another seller, deliberately merging listings for different products that shouldn't be merged, whatever it is. If it's a policy violation that's code of conduct similar in seriousness to review manipulation, understand that if you acknowledge it and plead for mercy, it's kind of a Hail Mary. It's kind of a last-ditch attempt. And you're doing it because you have no other way out. Otherwise, they're going to reject. They're probably going to reject 60 to 75% of the appeals for something like review manipulation anyway, at least the first couple. We seem to be many, many months removed from the period where people would acknowledge it, accept fault, submit a short appeal saying why they think that they were flagged, what they will do better, some of the details around why they were flagged in terms of services they used or the reviews that were suspect. That's all 3 to 6 months ago. The last few months, everything's changed. Acknowledgement means not necessarily certain death. It means you're appealing it from a perspective of knowing that they may not accept your apology. They're probably not asking you for a real plan of action, and you're on the fence leaning out. Your odds are against you from the get-go. That's why so many sellers are disputing it, even if they can't dispute it. Many sellers are being encouraged by Amazonians, people in SAS Core, people in ads management, people from all areas of the company are telling brand owners to dispute it, even if they in the past would have acknowledged it, because they're being told by other Amazonians that dispute's the only way out. This is a terrible decision that Amazon made to box people in. It encourages people to lie about what they were doing. It encourages people to submit misinformation. It's a ghastly mistake that hopefully will be examined during the Accelerate conference next month. Be that as it may, the powers that be have decided that numerous sellers will only have one way out, which is to dispute it as an error. Unless you can prove that you did not do what they're accusing you of doing, they're going to reject the appeal. Of course, after a few rejections, many sellers switch to acknowledging it. Again, do that. I already said this a couple of times. Do that only as a last resort. If you do have a fruitful call with somebody at Amazon, maybe it is an account health rep that actually gives you a sense of what's going on in terms of what's annotated on your account. If it is your only way out and you're begging for mercy and you're accepting your guilty plea, yes, then you're giving them details. Then you're acknowledging that you broke the policy. If you've been warned for it before, again, sticking with the review manipulation example, especially if you've been suspended for it before, you don't have a way out through acknowledgement. Any account health rep that knows you've been reprimanded for that before, that tells you to acknowledge it, is sending you straight to your grave, and they shouldn't be doing that. Or they're doing it because they are ignorant and they shouldn't be on the call with you to begin with, or they don't care, right? You probably don't want to base a business decision like this, of this magnitude, or an appeal that has this much importance attached to it, on a whim or a guess or somebody that doesn't care. And keep in mind, account health reps can tell you pretty much anything under the sun. No one seems to be listening in on those calls. No one calls them out on the deficiency in their advice. We sit on those calls sometimes. Sometimes we just look at the follow-up messaging. The bottom line is we are consistently, and I mean on a weekly, if not daily basis, we are consistently exposed to unprofessional, inexperienced, uneducated advice coming from account health reps who either don't know what they're doing, haven't been trained from the word go, or they simply don't care about the quality of the advice they give you. That means the last thing you want to do is base a decision on an appeal on what they tell you. Most of the time you're doing the opposite, because you're already kind of talking past each other and wasting your time on a phone call if they're just giving you gibberish because they don't have anything else to tell you. They're on a call with you. It's not like an email where they can just ignore it or they can delete it. They have to say something on a call. That doesn't mean it's good advice. So don't be gullible. Don't listen to what they say. Be very skeptical, and be very suspicious, especially if the advice they give you coincides with or dovetails with anything I've said in this video or other videos about their last lack of experience and on occasion the last lack of trustworthiness in some of that advice. We've had numerous account health reps, either because they're overworked, underpaid, inexperienced, not interested in being there, whatever the occasion might be, who are reading from scripts. And if they're not reading from a script, they've regurgitated the script so many times they're doing it from memory and they're not reading anything at all. They're just on full robot, brain turned off mode. That's not going to help you, right? That means you have to grab a shovel and dig yourself out of your own problem. The origin of a review manipulation suspension is, of course, that they think you're tipping the scales. You're trying to get positive reviews that you don't deserve, that you're not entitled to by trying to manipulate the process. You're trying to do, let's say, product giveaways, have somebody scan a QR code, start offering them things which makes them more likely to leave you a positive review. There's a lot of misconceptions I've covered in past videos about, well, we didn't ask for a review, we just gave them something. Asking for a review or not makes no difference anymore, at least to these PRA, product review abuse teams. They don't seem to care, and they haven't cared for a long time about whether brands ask for a review or not. If you're giving product away, you're tipping the scales. For some reason, people are still sending physical postcards. I don't know where this idea came from. Terrible idea, very toxic. Lots of sellers getting suspended for sending physical mail that was unsolicited from buyers. We can include the link to the policy for review solicitation. The bottom line is that's not what I'm talking about in this particular video. I'm talking about you have to understand from the jump, am I acknowledging it or disputing it? There's numerous suspension types that fit this situation. Currently, review manipulation is chief among all of them because so many sellers are getting suspended for this, and so many of them are coming to us after they've appealed 1 or 2 or 3 times, typically in a horrible fashion, which just killed their odds of resurrecting their business and reinstating their account. Some people that are contacting us, thank God, are still in the 72-hour window. Please keep doing that before you harm your chances beyond repair. And some are still active that might be beyond the 72-hour window, but they're still actively selling. It can still be retrieved. Because if you've missed that 10-day deadline, you've submitted some poor appeals, you've been rejected, and you get deactivated, between the people I've talked to, sellers, agencies, and some Amazonians, word on the street right now collectively is that once you miss that initial window and you get deactivated, your odds are a lot worse of fixing it. And I understand there's a lot of complexity and nuance to this. Don't make knee-jerk decisions. Don't submit hasty appeals. Don't succumb to panic. I know it's tempting. You'll make life 10 times worse for yourself if you either let your agency panic and submit a subpar appeal for you, or if you submit it yourself. The fundamental misunderstanding of what can be acknowledged, what can be disputed. There's a long running debate over that. I'm sure it'll run right into the Amazon Accelerate conference in September. The bottom line is if you don't even understand the difference and the severity of those choices, then you shouldn't even be submitting the appeal yet. And then beyond that, there's a huge misunderstanding about whether or not you can trust account health reps who are advising you to either dispute it or acknowledge it. They're kind of tossing coins. They're changing their minds constantly. We've had some sellers call maybe 5-6 times over the course of a couple of days. 3 reps said acknowledge, 3 said dispute. Their reasoning was all over the map. They're guessing, they're not trained, no one's watching over their shoulder to see if they're doing a good job. And they could be giving you detrimental advice that ruins your ability to solve this with an appeal. So definitely feel free to reach out. You can find us anytime at support@ecommercechris.com. Email us some details sooner than later, because you definitely don't want to miss Q4 because of a misunderstanding over any of the concepts I've talked about today. Thanks for listening, and either way, good luck.